This is Mary's River Park in Philomath, Oregon, and I'm going to be going down this road to see it. And I've been here before more than 2 years ago, but this will be just about this park. This meadow is flooded. It's a swamp, not unusual this time of year. And looking down to this flat meadow, you can see the little pools of water. A lot of that is probably from the snow that fell yesterday and has now melted, it seems, in this area. There are some people parked here today. And then we have the park part of the park. We have picnic shelter, playground, restrooms. So this is the park part of the park, and now we're going to go and see the natural part of the park in those trees. Far in the distance we can see there is still snow up on those hills. And then closer in we can see we also have horseshoes here. And a lot of times when I've come here, there's been a lot of dogs here. I don't know if this is officially a dog park, but anywhere there's dogs, you have a dog park. One other feature of this park, there is a disc golf course. Don't know how many holes, such as they are, there is, but we do have a disc golf course here, along here, and then maybe also in the trees. There also is some snow on the ground here, but just really a light dusting. It either didn't fall or is already melted. And that's in contrast to the Portland area where I think there was like 10 inches of snow over the last couple days. And I think the reason here is that we are basically in a notch where ocean air can come in through the Coast Range, which is why today is not too cold and there's not much snow. This is the Mary's River. This is why it's called the Mary's River Park. Mary's River is pretty high right now, but not in flood. As I've said in other places, if the Mary's River was really in flood, my feet would be wet right now. Now it's a good 10 feet below this line. It's not a gigantic river, but it is substantial. You can actually see right there, see these sticks, so that's where the water has carried sticks to stick against the trees. Yes, that's a lot of wood that has come up from the Coast Range in the heavy rains. Comes into the stream and it gets carried down and it gets caught in these bends. Last week when I was walking to Junction City, I talked about how I was surprised that there's nothing sprouting yet, especially the osoberry. This right here, I am imagining that this is osoberry from the way these leafing leaves look and from the size of the tree. And I said next week it might be happening, and indeed this week it is. Looks like we have a song sparrow, possibly a related bird like a Lincoln sparrow, but most likely just a song sparrow. And it's hopping in between the trees. Has that really distinctive torso with the speckled brown lines on it. And it's a common bird, especially in riparian habitats, but really everywhere. And it's a New World sparrow, and it's a very peaceful little bird. Also very good camouflage, and it probably is not happy about that. So we have this path that goes through the woods, really less than a quarter mile, but it's a nice enough place to go. And then over to the left we have this bridge, and I'm going to find out what's on the other side of this bridge. This path is kind of hard to navigate, but I'm going to walk down to the river on it. The banks of the river and the bed of the river There's a lot of gravel here. So right here where the river is now, it's pretty much just left the coast range and kind of gone into a plain. So a lot of the gravel and stuff that it picked up in those mountains and other mountains to the west is dropped here and kind of forms all of these bars and all of these banks and beaches. I did actually see a little fish. I think it was a fish, possibly a tadpole of some sort, swimming around in the water. But in general, things here are pretty still. There's snow on the ground. It's cold. And we saw the oso berries were coming out, and in a week or two, maybe this will be buzzing and alive, but right now it is still winter. But this is a nice place. This is pretty close to town. Well, it's right in town. You can really walk here in 5 minutes. So usually this would be full of people, and you know, even though this isn't like a gigantic wild natural area, if you're in the area, this is still a good experience. And having seen that, I'm going to go up this path and go back to the park part of the park and continue on. So here's the path back to the park part of the park where my bicycle is locked up, hopefully. You know, and one thing, I probably said this before, but even when I go to a little neighborhood park like this, you know, where people just go after work to walk their dogs, I still remember the quote. It's kind of a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, by William Blake about eternity in an hour. And I just remember all the times when I was a kid, and maybe a little older, I would just go to a park and I would be walking around, and then I'd find just a small part of like nature, and it really was like I was just like, wow, I am out there. So a park like this, it's pretty small, doesn't have a lot of features, but sometimes just that little bit of nature is all you need.